Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you. Happy to be joined by, as usual, the guys, Tariq.
My New York Mets stay hot, and I love to see it.
Yeah, and they get some additions that we'll talk about later. Right? Leif Larson, number 50.
Leif Larson. First of all, don't you dare talk about Leif Larson that way. He's my favorite Bill of all time. Second of all,
I know, that's why I brought it.
Greg Rousseau. I mean, we do need a defensive end to step up, and now that Leif Larson is not available, I mean, this is
still available.
You're probably right. This is Greg Rousseau's season to be that guy.
Yeah.
And if they need someone, it needs to be Greg Rousseau.
Did he play in the secondary? Because it looks like you need help there.
Well, how about he's so tall, he has multiple interceptions, so possibly.
Oh, there you go.
Before I start, what number did Larson wear?
97.
All right, just to make sure we have that all straight. Hey, how about those Olympic Games?
Oh, man. First of all, let me give kudos to NBC for the coverage of it. They've done a fantastic job of looping me in and my daughters who very rarely watch sports. They have done an amazing job pulling me into stuff I've never seen before. Now, rugby is not a sport that we would talk about. It would probably be ninth on the list of any sport there would be. But later on, unfinished business, the U.S. women's rugby team was just unbelievable the way they ended their season getting a bronze this Olympics. But I have to say, the coverage is great. When the men's team is getting a bronze and it feels like gold because they haven't won in 16 years, that's special. The coverage is great. The human interest stories are good. This is a different type of broadcast. I don't know why I'm in it more this year than I've ever been before.
I'm back in the 80s. Me and Mike Tariq covered the Empire State Games.
Get the heck out of here.
He was working at Syracuse.
We're about the same still. So that's good.
Yeah.
You got that going for you.
This coverage is unbelievable.
I'm here. He's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this was pretty cool. No, I got to tell you, man, like, first of all, I'm pretty sure I can do half of the events. I could make the Olympics and half of the events. Like, I want to do canoe slaloming. I could totally do canoe slaloming. Why I never got into fencing when I was a child. You know, I love the Olympics.
But what about breakdancing? Come on.
Bro, I mean, you've seen me move. You know I can break dance. I also...
Break something.
I have questions now that I never thought I would have. Like, for example, why are the legs of England's men's gymnastic team so skinny when their arms are so big? It's like alarming how skinny those men's legs are. Everything about the Olympics. No joke. I've been sitting for 6 hours a day and just watching whatever comes on, and I get sucked in absolutely everything, and I'm screaming for the Americans, and if there isn't an American in contention, I'm trying to find some connection to a country that's playing that I can scream for them.
The broadcast is so good, it's compelling. I watched the cycling event featuring our Magnus Sheffield live on the first day, USA Network. I dug that thing out, and it was compelling.
It's still to come track and field. I mean, you know, everybody loves to see that. You know, U.S. always does very well in those competitions. And then you've got all these new things that are coming about. Skateboarding is not new, but surfing is interesting. It's just sports we would never really see. We have about 4 or 5 sports, you know this, Duffy, that we watch consistently.
Sure.
And now we're watching a sport I would have never seen if the Olympics had.
Is that ballroom dancing part of this thing?
Ballroom dancing?
No, I didn't. Is it a winter game? I mean, I know it's an Olympic sport.
It was an Olympic sport. My youngest daughter, who had her first international ballroom dance competition and cleaned up because she takes after her father when it comes to rhythm and movement, right? She had it over the weekend. But it's funny you bring that up. We were in Niagara Falls over the weekend for this competition, and even then, you know, we're watching the, you know, Canadian broadcast. I was all in on all the Canadian athletes that they were showing.
Even the cheating?
Come on, Dad, come on. I laughed about that at a bar in the hotel, and like somebody got very offended. Oh, we would never do that. Oh, no, we never would.
Did.
Yeah, I watched it.
But you know, too, the whole Canadian thing, the country got upset. Not how many of the nations would rush in to defend. No, they said it was like too icky for them. It says, you're embarrassing us. What's wrong with you?
I mean, to your point, it is funny. You look at all the scandals the Americans have had with drug tests and, you know, all kinds of different edges that American athletes have tried to get that we'll justify, right? We'll try and defend Marion Jones. There are people that will still defend Lance Armstrong. Canadians use a drone to get some extra footage, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe we did that.
And somebody suggested that they could have got that on a pedestrian bridge where you could actually look into the practice.
It's all out there, man. It's all out there.
This is the Rochester Press Box, and we're talking Bills next. Just passing through life lessons from notable Rochesterians, people you may think you know. Don Alhart, Maggie Brooks, John Dady, and Stacy Pension, J. Mack and Soccer Sam, Fred Costello, and Jake Zembeck, along with 21 more. How they all got from there to here. It's a new book by Bill Pucko, available for $12 postpaid only from rocksportsnow.com. Try it, and thank you. Our NFL pick segment in the Rochester Press Box, brought to you by Connors and Ferris, your trusted and dedicated workers' comp attorneys and official sponsor of the Buffalo Bills. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here. It's the Rochester Press Box talking Buffalo Bills. Still waiting for Greg Connors. Is going to make an appearance, we promise, at some point. Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys, bringing you this segment. What have you seen so far?
I mean, what's there to see? Look, you know how I feel about training camp, right? Nothing about training camp is real until good things start to happen. And the connection with Keon Coleman and Josh Allen, second-round wide receiver pick, well, now that they have pads on, I love it. I love it. I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to remind myself that none of this matters. But I'm pretty sure now, after what I've seen, Josh Allen and Keon Coleman will be the greatest quarterback-wide receiver duo in the history of professional.
No, we don't want to overstate.
I think that's a safe assessment. That
Here we go.
I mean, either one of them will win the MVP every year until the other retires. I mean, I think we're looking at a minimum of 14 Super Bowls for them to be together until everything's over. Like, I don't know. What's there to look forward to until the lights come on and things really go? And even with that, right, opening game is against the Arizona Cardinals. If you go out there and lay an egg against the Cardinals, it's bad. If you go out there and dominate the Cardinals, well, they were a terrible team last year, so what do you take off of that? We're not really going to know until December what kind of team this Bills team is.
Yeah, but every game they play is like the biggest game of the season.
Well, I mean, starting with that game against Arizona, which is interesting because I was looking at all of the quarterbacks and high-paid quarterbacks, and I don't know how Kyler Murray's making more than Josh Allen is this year.
He's 13th.
Well, I mean, Josh
Allen is 13th.
Which goes to show you the Bills made the right move in signing him at that time, which looked crazy, but now looks like a genius in the sense that Dak Prescott hasn't gotten paid yet. There's other quarterbacks that are still out there as we're recording this now. I don't know what they're going to do in Dallas, but as we're recording this now, you're still looking for a possibility of other quarterbacks that could be paid just as high, if not higher, than Allen, and yet they haven't achieved half of what Allen has done.
It's a situation that will resolve itself. But again, you look at it, it's like it's just the last contract signed, and Mahomes is 11th. Allen is 13th based on salary per season. It's incomprehensible.
No, I agree with you. I'll tell you, the fact that the Bills have him on the deal that they have now is not incomprehensible because, like you said, they gambled and they won, much like the Giants tried to do with Daniel Jones.
And
lost big time.
Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, no, totally. Just like the Mets. They're probably going to turn out great at the end of the season, too. What is incomprehensible to me is deals for guys like Tua Tagovailoa or Kyler Murray, like you bring up. Like Tua Tagovailoa got $220 million per win he had against the Bills. Like, this team went from not wanting to pay him and not committing to him long term to giving him, by average, the third, fourth largest salary annually in the NFL.
The problem is, what's the alternative?
And who's higher than him? Lawrence?
Exactly.
Who's higher than him?
Like Love, right?
Yeah,
Love's got one.
I mean, and even like, but Jordan Love, I look at more as like a Josh Allen contract, where Jordan Love started not great. He took a major step forward in his second season, so this is the prove it here. They did the same thing to Josh Allen when things were happening that way. The Tua deal, I don't understand because you know what Tua Tagovailoa is. You know that when Tua Tagovailoa lines up against a subpar defense with the weapons that he has, he's going to eat. And when Tua Tagovailoa plays against a defense that understands how football works, he's going to play terrible.
And he's facing under colder temperatures as well. He is not a great quarterback when the wind is gusting and the temperatures are below 35.
You used to accuse the Rams of printing money. Like, how did they get around the salary cap? Well, so the Dolphins and the investment they have in their two wide receivers now and their quarterback.
Yeah.
How did they do it?
Well, but
what's going to happen?
Here's the thing. I'll tell you what's going to happen. They can't win with that. You can't win in that way. Like, we sit and we look what's happening, what is happening with Buffalo. Even with Josh Allen under that economy contract, they have pushed the payment down the road so far that next year Josh Allen is scheduled to make $60 million. That is rough, but you can handle it when it's one guy. It's like in the NHL. They say that a team that pays three players over $10 million in the same roster will never be able to win a cup. When you have three offensive players eating that much of your cap in skill positions, right? Skill positions, not defensive, offensive line, not safety, not the things that really matter. You cannot win with that recipe.
Of the top paying quarterbacks in the NFL, you know full well 7 out of those top 10 are not going to perform well in the upcoming season. I bet on Burrow not being able to measure up to that contract. So that makes it very interesting what we plan to do in the next few years. Are we going to continue to pay these quarterbacks at $50 million, or is that money going to go down?
You know what's funny, and I know this is a little off the beaten path here, but do you guys remember a couple of years ago, Sam Bradford was the last rookie quarterback to get that massive payday before they put in the rookie wage scale, right? Sam Bradford, it was like $50 million, which back then was unbelievable money. And they changed it because they said they needed to protect owners and general managers from themselves. So in doing that, they turned around and gave Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray, these massive deals, which 3 quarters are going to blow up. What's the difference?
The top 15 quarterbacks, Bill, 2 of them have won championships. Mahomes has won multiple championships. The other is Matthew Stafford from the Rams.
This is the Rochester Press Box. Our Bill segment was brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Like it or not, is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road.
How about a journey behind the falls? Hello again, Michael O'Brien, your getaway guy. Yep, that's Niagara Falls. I'll take you here. Just look for the getaway guy right now on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box trivia answer brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here. This is the Rochester Press Box, and our Like It or Not segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda, where Honda's done right. Online or in our showroom, build your new Honda, get financing, and a quote on your trade. For your next Honda, visit Ralph Honda. Like it or not, we've got a lot to talk about the trade deadline. Yes. Major League Baseball.
And listen, as a Met fan, I'm happy with what they did. They didn't get the ace that they wanted, but I will say, Kodai saying I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure what the Mets are going to do when it comes to their pitching. That being said, I'm happy they were able to get some relief pitching because we're going to just need bullpen guys the rest of the way. The Yankees are interesting to me. Chisholm is put a bit of energy into that team that needed the most out of New York. You're talking about New York slipping. If he's able to keep that team in that rhythm hot, Soto gets back, Judge stays with Judge. I see the Yankees hitting, but my biggest concern is their pitching now that Cole had to take that extra day of rest. So that concerns me if he's that tired halfway through the season.
Yeah, general fatigue. He sat himself down. That's not a good sign for them.
General fatigue, one of the worst Civil War generals. If you guys know. I find what the most...
Right there.
Someone's Googling that. They think it's real, and it's not.
I think the most interesting thing, we've talked, guys, I'm a Blue Jays fan, right? And I, for the last couple of years, cannot comprehend with the talent they have on that roster, how poorly they performed, especially this year. And they've decided we're going to sell off what we can to try and sign our big guys and keep them extended, not a rebuild, a retool. Well, if there is a year to do it, it's this year because everything is so tight. There's only, 5 or 6 teams that are actually selling, and the Blue Jays are selling everything that is not nailed down, right? We're going to nail down Vlad, and that's about it. And everything else
it's a total surrender. Not so much the guys are unloaded, but that team, I agree. They were so good, and they never cashed it in.
And it doesn't make sense. But here's the thing, right? The way that they're doing it, I mean, you're bringing in prospects and whatever to try and retool yourself. Maybe those get turned around to bring someone in next season, but you're going to somehow manage, it seems, if you can get these big guys under contract. They're not going to trade them, as I say this. Watch, they're probably trading them now as we're taping it. Yeah. If you can find a way to extend them, right? Next season, the season after, you can jump right back in with everybody and try it all over again. It looks like the general manager or the coach are going to stay put. They have taken advantage of everybody else being good in a hopeful skip over a pothole and keep running.
I've never seen it. The only sport that I've ever seen where a team could be extremely hot coming out like the Orioles and the Yankees and then totally fall off the face of the earth for about a month and still be in it to possibly go for a pennant championship.
I like the trade deadline because it adds an excitement. I'm a big baseball guy. But part of me, I'm still offended by the fact that the big money teams, especially like I'm thinking Dodgers and Yankees, get a redo. They get, it's like a card game. Don't like the way that went. You reshuffle, you add a couple things, you got the money to do it, and it's all different in the second half.
And yet there will be a team that out of the blue that will get hot in the end of August, into September, and possibly shock them.
The Our Like It or Not segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda. Unfinished Business next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. It's time for our unfinished business, and Pat, as always, starts us off.
Breaking news, the Bills have cut a punter. There was a punting battle this year for the first time in a long time in SHI Fish University. When I say breaking news, like it literally just happened 15 seconds ago. But I bring this up because in the break room for years and years and years, the radio show that I do in WCMF, we would broadcast live from training camp right next to where the turf field was. And that turf field belonged to the specialists, the punters, the kickers, the long snappers. And let me tell you something. If you have a kid that plays football, you're training them to do things wrong. You don't want them to play linebacker. You don't want them to be the quarterback, right? You want them to be a kicker, a punter, or a long snapper. Teach them to kick, punt, or long snap. Because I would sit there for 3 hours a day while they were practicing in the brutal heat. And there were guys sweating, right? Taking ice baths and getting IV infusions to make sure they stay hydrated. You know what the kickers, punters, and long snappers were doing? Kicking, punting, and long snapping. And they only did that like every 5 minutes. The rest of the time, they would just stand around. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand the pressure that comes with your moment being a make or break time in that game. I understand how hard it is to pin someone inside the 5-yard line if you're a punter. And I understand the pressure that comes with putting that snap in exactly the right spot. But everything outside of doing your actual job is cake, bro. Go out and watch offensive linemen train in the offseason, having to lift and run and eat the right way. I'm not making this up. Within the last 20 years, and I won't say who, there was a specialist on the Buffalo Bills, punter, kicker, or long snapper, who was a smoker. He was a smoker and an NFL player. Here is my tip to you, like I said before. If you have a child that is currently playing football, you are doing them a massive disservice if you're not in the backyard holding a kick, snapping a punt, or teaching them to long snap.
Women's rugby. Who would have thought during the Olympics and all of this coverage of all these stars like the great Simone Biles and track and field, which is starting up, men's basketball for USA, that it would be rugby that would have the moment you need to Google right now. Alex Cedric is her name, and she broke through in the final seconds of the women's rugby match against Australia in order to help win the game and help the U.S. women's team get a bronze medal. Yes, I'm that hype over women's rugby. Never seen it before. Seen something in a photo finish ending of a game that results in the U.S. team celebrating. I have never been more interested in seeing the coverage on games and sports I've never seen before. It is the pure win, and it is the pure defeat. Unfortunately for Australia's women's rugby team, they were on the end of the defeat. Unfortunately for the U.S. women's rugby team, they were on the end of the win. But it was the moment. It wasn't so much the fact that you're sitting there rooting for one team against another. I had no interest in this until I saw the end, and I saw all of the work either pay off or end in defeat.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying. I was never comfortable with that philosophy, but it certainly is embraced by the Olympic crowd. The women's soccer team representing Canada in Paris is certainly trying. Flying drones over the New Zealand team practice, making little effort to avoid detection while suffering the consequences. Well, welcome to the club. The Olympics have a colorful, if not inspirational, history of cheats. In 1904, an American marathoner got tired midway through the race, was given a ride to the finish line by his manager. That car broke down, so Frederick Locks got out and ran the rest of the way, finishing first. In 1976, a Soviet Union fencer got caught rewiring his épée so that he could score a touch without really recording one. He got banned for life. For sheer bravado, it is tough to top Roman Emperor Nero, who in the year 67 competed in the 4-horse chariot race using 10 horses. He was thrown from his ride and failed to finish, but it was declared the winner anyway. But the one with the best backstory happened in the 60s. An Austrian took part in the 1965 Pentathlon World Championships. As legend has it, before the pistol shooting competition, Herbert Porzhuber downed 10 beers in a bottle of cognac before firing all his bullets into the ground and passing out. That helped prompt officials to include alcohol in its first drug testing policy for the 1968 games. That's when a Swedish pentathlete put down a couple of beers prior to the shooting competition to try to settle his nerves. History repeats itself. The Swedes were stripped of their bronze medal as Hans Gunnar Lillewall became the first Olympian to fail a drug test with a .04 blood alcohol level. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, but it's really not worth the effort. That's our unfinished business, and that is our program. I gotta know, who was the kicker who smoked?
First of all, who said it was a kicker? Second of all, I won't tell you, but if you find out, you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of
He
sense.
was out there.
Well, yeah, he was.
Wasn't that the kicker from The Replacements from the movie?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was the British guy from The Replacements. That's who it was. Yeah.
All right. Something for another day. Hey, thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box, and we'll see you again next week.
It was Ryan Lindell.
Okay.
Oh, cool.